go ahead and move on now to our playoff predictions. Now that we've gotten through our top 25, and I know these are probably based on our list somewhat, but since
This
Tyler had the list pulled up, if you have something playoff wise, you can go ahead and pull that up too.
this
So
is
we can see
based
that.
off of the top 25 list that you, ladies and gentlemen, see on your screen now. And that is my playoff predictions in particular. The seeding is going to be a little bit weird because it's like impossible to determine how the seeding is going to play out, how the AP is going to rank teams. There's obviously been the change that it's not the top 4 conference champions and you get the automatic buys. It's just straight seeding now. But the top 5 conference champs do still get automatic bids. Notre Dame is set up to be the only team that goes 12-0 this year. Their schedule is cupcake. Now, to an extent, they play Miami, they play A&M again. I believe they have Arkansas, and they play USC as they do every year. So they do have some games that are going to be tough. But if any team is going to go undefeated this year, I think it is Notre Dame, and that means that they finish the season 12-0. The other top 4 is Clemson, which is pretty universally agreed upon. LSU, who I have beating Texas in the SEC championship, and then Texas just losing to LSU in the SEC championship. That's 2 SEC teams in the top 4. We've seen Michigan and Ohio State, 2 Big Ten teams, win the Natty in back-to-back years. It's time for the SEC to get back on top, even though I'm a SEC hater. So I think you see 2 SEC teams in the top 4 because the top of the Big Ten is going to kind of make things weird. You've got Penn State playing Oregon, and then you have Ohio State playing Penn State. So if Penn State beats Oregon, but then Ohio State beats Penn State, and Ohio State, say, loses to Texas, it's going to be interesting to try to rank those 4 teams in particular. You've got Penn State at 5, Ohio State at 6. I can't even see where my 7 is. Who do I have?
Oregon.
7?
Oregon, bottom right.
Oregon at 7, Bama at 8. You'll see Florida 9, Baylor 10, Georgia Tech 11, and Tulane is my pick to get to the automatic bid from the G5. Again, the seeding is odd, and the game picks would be different based off of some other seedings, but it's impossible to predict here in August what they are going to look like in January. I tried to stay a little bit chalky because I think that that's what football is. Outside of the upset pick of Baylor beating Oregon in Autzen, I just wanted, again, to be bold because I think it's college football and bold things happen in college football. Ohio State would handle business against Georgia Tech. They have Jeremiah Smith. They've got Caleb Downs. Is Julian Sand going to be special? Can he be special? Yes. Will he be? I don't know. We're yet to see. But Ohio State has the talent to beat Georgia Tech. Bama, Florida would be a fun game. That's not an SEC game we get this year in the regular season, so it would be a fun SEC matchup in the postseason. I'll give the edge to Alabama. Ty Simpson, I think he handles business. He's going to be fine. And Kalen DeBoer's offense, he fits that style of offense way better than what Jalen Milroe did. So give me Bama. Penn State easily beats Tulane. And I'll say if Penn State finds himself in this situation, it'll be quite interesting because James Franklin in back-to-back years will have found himself playing in the first round a Group of 5 opponent. Now, they played an SMU and then a Group of 5 opponent, but then this year they would have played a Group of 5 opponent in the first round. Then you get the big boys matching up. Give me Texas over Penn State, Notre Dame over Bama, LSU over Ohio State, Clemson over Baylor. Texas handles business against Notre Dame. LSU gets revenge on Clemson. Week 1 game, LSU versus Clemson. I have Clemson winning. And then in the rematch, LSU wins. Give me Nussmeier over Arch Manning. LSU takes home the Natty.
I'm still trying to digest this. I forgot what it looked like before you put it up on the screen. I like some of the picks, honestly, and I am differentiating some of the teams that are in. I think you convinced me. It's either going to be Boise State or Tulane that gets that Group of 5 nod. I'm still in between on that. For now, just in my own notes, I have Tulane.
I think Army is still in the mix as well. Army, and James Madison.
Yeah, James Madison's team I forgot about. I knew Army was in there. James Madison could be a sleeper. Texas, I think Texas at least gets to the national championship game, so I like you
At
have them
least
there.
some bold statements.
And
At least.
I think Texas at least, yes, because like you were saying earlier, ESPN just has Texas ranked so far above everyone else, and even yourself, you said that you're higher on Arch Manning than some people.
Yeah, I like Arch. I
So
think he delivers.
I like Texas in the championship game there. Clemson is going to be an interesting team because, like you said, it's going to be hard for them to lose the ACC.
Very.
How much of a challenge are they going to face depending on who they match up with in the playoff is the real question for me. I think if they played someone like Ohio State or even someone like Florida, they may have their hands full. So that would be interesting to see as well. Penn State. Penn State's going to be in an interesting position, like you said earlier. Do I have Alabama in there? Yes, I do have Alabama in there. I do not have Georgia Tech in there. I have two Big 12 teams in there. I have my championship matchup. Was there Arizona State and Iowa State are the two Big 12 teams I have in there. So that could shake things up. LSU I actually do not have in the playoff. That's our biggest thing that we have different.
Okay. Interesting. Because that's my preseason natty pick. So
I also had Georgia in, and you do not have Georgia in.
I did not have Georgia in. Georgia was probably first out. I think Georgia Tech finally regresses a little bit, and I see them going 9-3. And they are the first team out because I have Georgia Tech beating them the last week of the season.
It could be. Matt, what are you thinking? I know you have a thinking face on.
I just, like you said, you had two Big 12 teams in there. That is going to be tough to do simply because of the parity of the conference. I don't necessarily. I mean, I think it's entirely possible that you have two Big 12 teams that are better than whoever the bottom, ACC team is, where you have Georgia Tech in there. I'm not as high on Georgia Tech. I'm higher after our discussions the last couple of days about them. I don't know if they would find their way in there. Same with the Big Ten. I like Ohio State. Where does Oregon sit as opposed to last year? What does Michigan do? Are they going to play spoiler? Are they going to come back and have a typical Michigan year and edge some of those other teams out of the way? Alabama is a great team always. They had a less than typical year last year. Where do they end up? And to have Georgia out, who was the SEC champion last year, I mean, I like what you said earlier about Georgia and maybe taking a step back. Obviously, I think Texas is in. I think LSU is a great pick. Clemson, obviously. Big 12 is up in the air. I do like Baylor a lot. So it's hard to nail down, but
this almost looks like 2019. I'll say if I had put in Oklahoma over Florida, which I was close to doing, it would be eerily similar to 2019 because you would have the Joe Burrow LSU team. I think that Trevor Lawrence Clemson team.
Clemson.
I can't remember if it was the Trevor Lawrence team or not, or if that was a few years before. But then you would have Ohio State and Oklahoma. And then you'd also have Baylor in there, who was really good that year. Oregon and Notre Dame were up there. I think Florida was ranked 10th in the final AP poll of 2019. Penn State was up there. Bama was up there. So it's like almost eerily similar to what that 2019 season looked like.
That just reminds me, what was the year that Cincinnati got in the playoff?
That was 20 or 21, right?
I think you're right. That just got me thinking. I think Trevor Lawrence was a year before Joe Burrow.
I think Trevor Lawrence, Joe Burrow was the 2019 season. I like the Tulane pick. I'm still pretty high on Boise.
It was 21 with Cincinnati. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you're good. I like the Tulane pick. I think I'm still high on Boise, but there's a lot of change with Genty going to the NFL. So I mean, we'll see. We'll see.
Again, impossible to predict.
Yeah.
So,
For that
Loms
reason, I do not hate this list at all. So
is this bold or brain dead? Let me know.
It's fair. I'd say it's fair. I mean, for me, I'm last minute trying to plug myself into a seeding for this, but that's just so hard to really determine what the seeds are going to be when we don't know how the matchups are going to go this year. I mean, for me, definitely, I have Clemson as my number 1 seed. That might be crazy, but I think they're going to obviously be ahead of the ACC this year. I don't understand your hate for the Dogs, so I have the Dogs in.
I don't hate the Dogs. I just don't think Gunnar Stockton is going to be as good of a player as what Carson Beck and Stetson Bennett have been.
I don't know. I guess I live in a what have you done for me lately? And I mean, Georgia has showed up every year. So why would I expect them to not otherwise,
Hey, if you have Georgia in there, I'm not going to say.
I mean, I have them in there pretty high, though. I have them as winning the SEC at number 2.
That's fair. Honestly, that's fair. I would not blink an eye if somebody has Georgia in there pretty high.
Yeah. I mean, Ohio State, I have them winning Big Ten. I feel like that's pretty fair. My pick to win the Big 12 is Iowa State. I mean, I know it's just going to be a meat grinder. So, I mean, we're yet to see if that's going to hold up. I don't really know too much about Group of 5. I haven't really had time to vet my research on, the up-and-coming teams this year. And if you want to call the Big 12 a meat grinder, what is the Group of 5? That's just going to be crazy. And we really won't know what it's going to look like until the end of the season for, the head of the Group of 5. Out of the at-large bids, I'd definitely say Notre Dame has a very high likelihood of making it, as well as Penn State. I think Bama would be a safe bet. But for me, I have like 10 or so teams that are all competing for like the last 6 spots. I have Arizona State, Oregon, Michigan, Texas, Ole Miss, LSU, Georgia Tech, SMU, Florida, and Baylor all competing for 6 spots. So out of there, I could understand really any picks.
Pretty high on Michigan. Interesting.
Yeah, well, we touched on it earlier, but
yeah. I mean, last year was atypical, but I would expect them to do a typical Michigan year.
I grew accustomed to J.J. McCarthy and Blake Corum, and I just don't know if Bryce Underwood can deliver what J.J. McCarthy was able to do during his time at Michigan.
Yeah, it could be the end of an era, but they are historically the best college football team. I'm putting that in air quotes because everyone has different metrics they want to go by to judge something like that.
Either way, we have an incredible season in front of us to watch